All right, I have 7:05. We'll open up the Selectmen's meeting for March 24th. And before we get started, pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order concerning imposition on strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. Meetings in the town of Oxford are being conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. All right, now first item on our agenda is just bear with me, is a public meeting for our tax classification. And that's going to be presented by Chris. And let me just read the notice into the record. Public hearing notice. Please take notice that the Oxford Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, March 24th, 2020 at 7 p.m. in the Selectmen's meeting room on the second floor of the Town Hall, which is located at 325 Main Street, Oxford, Mass. On the matter of selecting a residential factor, which will determine the percentage of tax to be borne by each class of property for fiscal year 2020. Written and oral comments from the public will be accepted at this hearing. This notice may also be viewed on our website. So with that, I guess I open it up to Chris.
Thank you. Just talking loud enough everyone can hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. Since I was last in front of the board, we went through an extensive review of the Department of Revenue. A lot of thanks for their hard work. They did. They really helped us get through this. Our office has reviewed individually at least 3,000 property cards for anything that looked like maybe it didn't transfer correctly. When we completed that process, we opened it up to the Department of Revenue for their review. They requested, the Department of Revenue requested over 970 record cards from the old system and the new system for their own comparison. Just for reference, that's over 1/6 of all the record cards in town. So it was a very exhaustive but extensive review. And it was for us, giving us real confidence that our new software is correct and fairly assessing data. So that's a comfort level for us, but from the state, it was a requirement that they're comfortable that our new software will properly allocate the tax burden among the taxpayers. So with that being said, I'm going to try and do some screen sharing, so bear with me for a second. If you aren't seeing anything, please speak up, because this is my first. I practiced earlier, but we'll see. Okay. So now I can't see my sheets. All right, so this is a worksheet that I generally present to you, the Board of Selectmen, every year. And this is from when the year I started in 2008, what's happened with the value of properties in town. A couple of things that I've always highlighted has been out here in columns J and K, which is the percentage of commercial, industrial, and personal property relative to the entire valuation of all property in town. For many years, it's been getting larger. This year, it did shrink a little bit, but it's not because of any weakness in the commercial industrial parcels. It's really been a recovery in the values of single-family homes. So one other thing to note on here You'll notice since 2009, which is actually our January 1st, 2008 values. So that was right before the Great Recession of 2008, 2009, 2010. We have finally moved over that valuation for all properties in town. So that's over 10-year recovery from the financial crisis in 2008. But here we are, ready for the next one. So I put some of these numbers into chart form just so we can see what they look like. They're pretty just basic, some line charts. So here you can see that basically the percentage of values. If you follow along the blue line, that's the residential portion of the tax revenue pie. You can see as our commercial industrial base grew, that percentage of the tax burden that they were bearing has shrunk. Again, it's edged up a little bit this year, and that's really just a reflection of the real strength in the housing market, at least as of January 1st, 2019, when the assessment date was. The red line at the bottom, that's the percentage of the commercial, industrial, and personal property. So all of our commercial taxpayers have shared. So those lines would add up to 100% the full tax burden of all taxpayers. Relative to the values of all properties in town, this is a graph of how the properties have changed. Again, from my first year doing this in 2008 to now. And again, you can see on the far right-hand side, that's the 2020 number. And it's the highest it's been since I've been here. And you can see where we've been through that valley for the last 10 or 12 years. So just some interesting statistics, interesting look at property values over time. Relatively stable with our commercial base has been growing a little less this year, but that's really, again, strength in the single family home market. So next I have to talk about the SIP shift, commercial industrial personal property relative to the residential tax rate. So just some information about splitting the tax rate. This is a Department of Revenue form. It is very large, very confusing. I fill in a lot of information.
You call Ken?
I'm sorry. The real result of this that is interesting for us is, let me see if I can zoom in on this corner. Here are the tax rates if we were to split the rate. So you can see over here in the far left column is the residential tax rate. And this one is, as anyone familiar with when I go through this, I always try to show you the effect of shifting, trying to pull 1 penny off the rate and see what that does to the industrial rate. And then obviously the next one I'll show you if we blew it out and split it as much as we legally could. So in here you can see the third line, we would get down to 1665. So saving a taxpayer 1 penny per thousand would add 3 cents to the tax rate with I should mention our unsplit tax rate would be $16.66. So that's 37 cents less than last year. So tax rate is going down. So in here you can see pulling 1 penny off, it's 3 cents on. Again, that's generally just the ratio of commercial property to residential property. We're at about 21%. So, 4/5, you expect between 3 and 4 pennies, depending on how it rounds out. So that's why sometimes you see 2 penny jumps in this model. But here you can see roughly 3 to 4 cents going on to the commercial industrial tax.
Shows it like,
1 penny coming off. The next one I want to show you, it's basically that same spreadsheet, but modeled a little differently. This one would be going from a unsplit rate, which we traditionally have had, to splitting it out to the extreme. So you can see at the extremes here on the residential, at best we could go down a little over $2 on the tax rate, but we would be really hitting our commercial and industrial taxpayers with over an $8 increase. Again, roughly 4 to 1, just because residential properties are roughly 4 to 1 ratio of value for properties in town. So I've done this for a number of years. You all know my opinion is that I like to see the commercial industrial grow organically. I think our flat rate has been something that has attracted commercial property to town. We still do have some commercial development going on. We have commercial development in the works. So I think continuing with a flat tax rate at 1666 would be beneficial. At this point, I'll come back to regular camera if I can figure it out. Hey, there I am. And I guess if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them.
Board members?
Mr. Chairman, just a point of order. This is the town manager. I had stepped away to ask Chris to speak a little bit louder. I did not know, or I did not hear whether you had an opportunity to read the public hearing notice into the record, the advertisement for this actual public hearing. And before we actually accept commentary, I would just ask that the board vote to open the hearing before we start to entertain actual questions.
All right, so I will entertain a motion to open this and allow this meeting to go on in reference to the order put into effect by the governor.
No, no, it's not that public hearing notice. I apologize. No, it's not that. It's the public hearing notice for the actual classification.
Oh, they didn't hear that?
I did not. I don't
Want me to repeat that?
I think he read it.
Yes, I did.
If he read it, that's good. That's why I asked. That's fine, but I didn't hear it. I wasn't talking about the governor. I was talking about
Oh,
the advertising.
yes, at the beginning of right after I read the governor's
Perfect.
order, then I opened up the first item on our agenda and read the public hearing notice into the record.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure of that. And so the only other thing would have been a vote to open the hearing.
The only other, opening, we need a vote to open the public meeting?
Yes, to be able to take actual comments from the public and then to close the public hearing.
Oh, okay. All right, and I need a vote. I need a motion to open the public hearing.
I make that motion.
I second that motion.
Comments? Call for a vote?
Yes.
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 And I'll vote yes. 5 in the affirmative. We have opened the public hearing on the tax factor. All right, so now we'll go back to comments. Board members, any comments? Don't see any comments from the public. Don't see any. Okay, then I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I make that motion.
I second that motion.
Do we need to vote on the
Comments?
factor?
I'll call for the vote.
Yes.
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 And I'll vote yes. 5 in affirmative. The public meeting is now closed. Now I'll entertain a motion to approve the tax factor at a single tax factor for the year of 2020.
I make a motion to accept the single factor tax rate of $16.66 for the year 2020.
I second that motion.
Okay, comments? Call for a vote.
Yes.
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 And I'll vote yes. 5 in affirmative. Our tax factor will be set on a single rate of 1666. Very good. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just to the board for a point of clarification, normally the assessor would be circulating a document at this point in time to have all of you sign it. But we're going to revert to the old methods with the Massachusetts Department of Revenue, in which tomorrow your office will be in touch with you to electronically sign into the DLS gateway, in which you can actually sign in individually to approve the single rate, and we will attach the certification of the vote for this evening. Just a little bit.
Yes, we did get an email on that, or at least I did, so. Great. All right, next item on our agenda is public hearing for a portable storage license for 25 to 27 Federal Hill Road. And this is requested by Eagle Leasing. And let me read the public notice. The Eagle Leasing Company of 125 to 127 Federal Hill Road, Oxford, Mass. 01540 has applied to the Oxford Board of Selectmen for a flammable storage license to keep 4 above-ground storage tanks, each containing 120 gallons of propane gas, and 4 underground storage tanks, each containing 1,000 gallons of propane gas. The aggregate total of all the above ground storage at 125 to 127 Federal Hill Road will equal 500 gallons of propane gas. The aggregate total of all underground flammable storage at 125 to 127 Federal Hill Road will equal 4,000 gallons of propane gas. The aggregate total of all flammable storage at 125 to 127 Federal Hill Road will equal 4,500 gallons of propane gas. A public hearing will be held before the Oxford Board of Selectmen regarding this matter on Tuesday, March 24th, 2020 at 7:15 p.m. in the Oxford Selectmen's Meeting Room on the second floor of the Oxford Town Hall, which is located at 325 Main Street, Oxford, Mass. Written and oral comments from the public will be accepted before and or during this hearing. This legal notice may also be viewed at our website. So I'll entertain a motion to open this public meeting.
I make that motion?
I second that motion.
Okay, moves in second, call for a vote.
Yes.
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 And I'll vote yes. 5 in the affirmative. This public meeting is now opened. So we have someone here from Eagle Leasing.
Yes, sir.
Oh, great. So you don't have this up there, or you're proposing to put these in?
Yeah, so I'm I'm the owner of DeLeo Gas. We're the ones that are gonna be installing the propane tanks, but I'm here representing Eagle Leasing also. So they currently have 2 1,000 gallon underground propane tanks on the facility currently. And they're putting up a new 80 by 80 building detached from the existing building that's there. And that new building needs 2 additional 1,000 gallon underground propane tanks. So we're just getting over the threshold of what we can do without having a public hearing, which is the 2,000 gallon mark. We've had the fire department out there. We've had them on site. We marked out the location of the propane tanks, and the fire department has signed off on their end for the storage portion and the location portion. So we're just trying to add some more storage for the new building that they're currently putting up.
Great. And I see we have our chief McDonald here, and you've signed out. You're okay with this?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, as I understand it, Captain Sellers has inspected it and signed off on it.
All right, very good. Questions from the board? All right.
What is the business at this location? Are you guys selling, or is that used to heat your facility?
It's for heating storage.
Okay.
So yeah, the propane is going to be used to heat the new building. That's what it's like.
You all set, Mike?
Yes.
Great. Anyone else? All right. Anyone else from the public? All right. Then I entertain a motion to close this public hearing.
I make the motion to close the public hearing.
I second that motion.
All right. Any comments? Call for a vote.
Yes.
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 And I'll vote yes. 5 in affirmative. The public hearing is now closed. Now I would entertain a motion to approve this license for 125 to 127 Federal Hill Road.
I make that motion.
I second that motion.
Any comments? Call for a vote.
Yes.
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 And I'll vote yes. 5 in the affirmative. You are approved.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too. All right. Next item on our agenda is a public hearing for a special permit for earth removal. And this is requested by all right, I'll read the notice into the record. In accordance with the provisions of the Oxford zoning bylaw, Chapter 18, the Oxford Board of Selectmen has received an application from Conrad Allen, 21 Flaxfield Road, Mass. 01571, for a special permit for earth removal on land located at Kathy Way and 1, 2, 4, and 6 Kathy Way. Oxford's Assessors Map 49, parcels 4, 4.07, 4.08, and 4.09, and space between parcels for road. A public hearing will be held regarding this matter on March 24th, 2020 at 7:30 p.m. in the Selectmen's Meeting Room on the second floor of the Town Hall, which is located at 325 Main Street in Oxford, Mass. 01540. Written comments from the public will be accepted before and/or during this hearing. This notice may also be viewed on our website. All right. We also have a memo from Sean Dyball. And he says, per your request, we have reviewed Conrad Allen's special permit application for earth removal from the proposed Kathy Way subdivision of Old Webster Road. We reviewed the application and supporting documents, including plan sheets titled Earth Removal Boundary, note dated Erosion and Sediment Control Plan Sheet 11, dated February 5th, 2014, last revised August 6, 2014. Road plan and profile sheet 6-inch dated February 5th, 2014. Last revised April 16th, 2014. All such plans prepared by Land Planning Incorporated. The plan calls for a removal of approximately 26,000 cubic yards of primarily sand and gravel. The cut area is identified in the plan as approximately 3.2 acres. We offer the following comments of special concern. There appears to be earth fill within 50 feet of the left property line in the vicinity of STA 1+00, while Section 7.1 requires of the earth removal bylaw requires an earth removal permit for the abutting parcels and permission of the parcel owner when conducting earth removal activity within 50 feet of the boundary line. The applicant shall provide adequate downslope protection in this area and provide documentation providing the acknowledgement of the abutter at 112 Old Webster Road. Adequate slope projection shall be forwarded to the DPW for review. Second item, section 5.4 prohibits operations within 200 feet of a structure unless the board is reasonably satisfied that such operations will not undermine such way or structure. It appears that operations will occur within 250 feet of the house at 112 Old Webster Road, but it is our opinion that there is no identifiable concern for undermining. Number 3, it appears that all slopes will exceed 2 foot horizontal to 1 foot vertical. It appears that all slopes will not exceed 2 foot horizontal to 1 foot vertical. Thus, it is assumed that all cut and fill slopes will be loomed and seeded. The applicant shall confirm. Fourth item, the applicant shall be made aware of weight restrictions of bridges in the area of the proposed subdivision, and provisions should be made to prevent loaded trucks from exceeding such weight restrictions. Number 5, as a condition of approval under section 7.5 of the bylaw, the applicant shall post a bond in the amount sufficient to guarantee compliance with the terms and conditions of the permit. The bond shall be in the form of a cash bond or performance bond, which holds the town of Oxford harmless, which it may suffer by reason of failure, and shall reimburse and repay the town all outlay and expense which the town may incur in making good any default. Tri-party agreements between the applicant's financing entity, and the town shall not be considered. Consistent with recent earth removal permits, the bond amount shall be $3,500 per acre for a total of $11,200. The DPW reserves the right on behalf of the Board of Selectmen to require certain special conditions that are customary for earth removal permits. Items such as dust control, sanitary facilities, impact monitoring, changes of ownership requirements, etc., will be written into the board's final special permit for earth removal. And this should be made aware to the applicant. Now, before I go any further, we should have a motion to open this public hearing. If you
I make that motion.
I second that motion.
can call for a vote.
Yes.
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 And I'll vote yes. 5 in the affirmative. We are open. This public meeting is open. All right. We have another item here from James and Patricia Wheeler from 108 Old Webster Road. To the Oxford Board of Selectmen, to whom may concern. I am writing to you concerning the request for a special permit for earth removal on the land located at Kathy Way and 1, 2, 4, and 6 Kathy Way. I am an abutter to lots 1, 3, and 5 of the proposed cul-de-sac. We are an elderly couple and have lived here for 43 years. As such, my wife and I have concerns regarding this project. Number 1, earth removal is noisy and very dusty undertaking. We request that everything that can be done to mitigate the dust situation, as it may be impacting our swimming pool and garden, as well as the rest of our home and property. Number 2, we request that the work be restricted to specific reasonable work hours spelled out in the permit. Being retired, we do not rise at the crack of dawn voluntarily.
Number 3 is.
3, we request that, we request that the permit have a finite and reasonable start and end date, and that it be spelled out in the permit and enforced so that we can look forward to the completion. Number 4, please inform us of the enforcing authority and how to reach them, And 5, please forward a copy of the permit to us via our email. All right. All right, so that brings us to, who's on this? Mr. We have somebody from,
I'm here, Conrad Allen.
oh, thank you.
And I'm
And I
here,
believe-
Norman Hill from Land Planning.
Okay, great. So we're pretty much going to take a lot of fill out of there, huh? My question is, how are you planning on trucking this down? Howarth or Old Webster?
Old Webster,
Through Old Webster?
yes.
Down towards Dudley or?
No, towards 395 onto Route 12.
So you'd probably get down Dudley Road then, get down Old Webster? and-
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right. All right. So when is your thoughts of starting this project?
Well, prior to 4 weeks ago, it was going to be in May. What the coronavirus ultimately winds up doing will depend upon our start date. But I do have people that want to be filled. Apparently, this was an old gravel pit, from what I'm told, and this hill is the material that they didn't truck out of there. It's a considerably high hill, and it's right in the middle of the road that we're going to be putting in.
Yeah. Okay. Where is your access going to be to this site to pull this out of there?
We have a full subdivision plan on record at the town hall.
Right.
We went through the planning board, but to answer your question, it'd be to the right of 112 Webster Road and to the left of 108 Webster Road.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. Board members, you have questions, concerns? John?
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, Cheryl.
Mr. Chairman, it's Cheryl.
Yep.
I think the abutter raises some concerns, valid concerns in regards to the work of the, the timing of the work in terms of start and end hours and so forth. Can the applicant respond to those concerns?
Sure. What would be reasonable as far as the board is concerned? I mean, do we start at 8 o'clock? Is that too early, or start at 9 and end at 5? I'm willing to work within any guidelines that you propose.
Okay. And how about, I know that there's some concern on their part by dust and particle and so forth. Do you know the abutter? Do you know the location of where this abutter is?
I do, yeah, it's a for lack of a better word, it's a cellar hole added onto. But the material that's coming out of there is mostly gravel.
Okay.
Mr. Hill can speak to that. We had Ramco dig holes, I think 15 feet down to determine what's there. So it's not going to be as dusty as they might think it would be.
If I could
And,
comment,
oh, sure, go right ahead.
yes, we dug holes almost 20 feet deep, and it was clean sand and gravel. So if you had silt and clay, then you would get that dust problem, but there was no silt or clay. It was pure sand and gravel.
Okay. Okay. And Mr. Allen, how when it comes to the excavation portion and taking all that out, I know that there's no way you can tell a start date, but do you have an estimated time as to how long you anticipate that taking?
The removal of the material itself.
Yes, sir.
I think, Norman, can you answer that a little better than I can? Is it going to be about a 2-week period if we work 6-hour days?
Depends on how many trucks you put on. If you
Yeah.
put on, if you put on 2 trucks, they could be there a long time. If you put on 10 trucks, you'll get it done in 2 weeks' time.
Okay.
How many trucks you're going to put on, Conrad?
I'm not sure. I have people that are interested, but I haven't been able to give them a start date of
Then
when
I-
they can take the material.
then I think you should tell the board perhaps 2 weeks to 6 weeks.
Okay. 2 weeks to 6 weeks. And Conrad, what did you said that was what, working 6 hours a day, 5 days a week?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I think it would be reasonable. I mean, we'd have to vote on it, but I mean, I think it would be reasonable, to start at 9 o'clock and, be done, do a normal 9 to 5 workday. That would be my thought on that, but
I have no problem with that at all.
yeah,
So
okay.
just in regards to that, the timing, I'm not sure of the exact bylaw, but I'm pretty sure the bylaws spell out when construction sites can start.
Yeah, they do. It's typically 7 in the morning, but
Right.
I will do whatever the board wants me to do.
Okay.
And this is an 8-lot subdivision that was approved by the town of Oxford, I think in 2013. Because of the economy, we weren't able to build on it. And now the coronavirus has thrown everything up there. We had planned on starting this in May.
Okay.
All right. And
Thank you, Mr. Allen.
Just one last thing in regards to the dust. I realize you guys dug down, but at the end of the day, you're still digging. And there's going to be dust and trucks moving in and out. And I did see that the Conservation Committee asked to limit the amount of dirt that goes onto Old Webster Road. But also, I know you said again that there's not going to be a whole lot of dust, but in the event that there is, how are you guys going to have water trucks available to go out there to limit the dust that may fly? Just some sort of plan B in the event.
I hadn't planned on that. Again, we're dealing with mostly gravel and sand. We are going to put in a 600-foot road there too. So it's.
If I could say something here, we have designed a construction entrance, which is made up of small rocks to keep the road clean, so that those rocks will shake the tires clean before they leave the site. So I would suggest at the end of each day, though, Conrad, that you sweep that road. And
Sure.
if you have a dust problem, I think you should agree to have it sprayed probably around noontime each day.
Okay, I don't have a problem with that.
All right.
Who determines a dust problem?
Well, you'll know if they can't keep their windows open, they've got a dust problem.
Okay.
Right.
Sure. We will be a good neighbor, that's for sure. We'll be a good neighbor.
All right.
go ahead, Mike. Did you have something to say?
I have nothing further.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I do.
John? Yep.
Number one, I have a concern regarding the number of trucks that are going to be going down Old Webster Road, down the Dudley Road, down Charlton Street. Those of us who travel that area during the prime times, morning and evening, know that there's a large backup. So I'm concerned about the number of trucks that are going to be going at any given time to eliminate or to have some concern about the traffic problem that may occur.
Yeah, it'll take. Yeah, these trucks will be filled one at a time, and it'll take almost 10 minutes to fill a truck. And then the other truck has to maneuver into position. So it might be 12, 13 minutes between trucks leaving the site. So that should be able to blend into the normal traffic patterns.
I also have a concern regarding the dust as well. In the past, we've had a number of sites that have removed gravel, and we required that calcium chloride or water be available to keep the dust down. We've noticed that even when gravel has been removed, there is a level of dust that will occur, especially in the dry season. So that should be monitored very closely. We do have a town engineer, and I know in the past that we have asked the DPW and the highway engineer to monitor it from time to time to ensure that whatever we're requesting as far as this permit is concerned is monitored on a routine basis. Do you have any problem with that?
None.
Okay.
None at all.
So how, if I may jump onto that, John, so if you're figuring a couple of trucks within, let's say, a 15, 20-minute time frame, how long is their round trip? You know, so are you having like 2 trucks, 4 trucks? And, you know, I mean, that would be a concern I would have also, because, you know, again, it is a basic neighborhood back road area of Old Webster. And, you know, to have a series of 5 or 6 trucks going within an hour span, and then every hour or so they come again, we might get a few complaints. So do you have an idea what's the round trip and how many
No,
are they
I
going
don't.
to take in a day? You don't?
I don't know. Again, I have not been able to be specific on a time when people could start doing this. And,
Yeah.
so I don't know who's going to buy or take the fill.
John, you all set?
I'm all set.
You're all set. I think we're all in agreement that the dust factor and the truck volume are going to be probably 2 big things. I don't know, how do we go and approve this if we got so many unknowns? At this point, we don't know a start date. We can't really guess at an ending date. We could limit the number of trucks. They have agreed to put down water or calcium to keep the dust down. How far, how much of the stonework, how far does that go back on the entrance of the entranceway?
About 50 feet.
50 feet? Okay.
Yeah, and then it's about another 100 feet before you get to the hill. So the hill starts about 150 feet into the site.
Yeah.
So you'll be well past those 2 houses before you get into the hill. And in the hill, they're going to be taking out anywhere from 6 to 12 feet of dirt from that hill.
Yeah.
So, but there's about 150 feet before you get back to that hill.
All right. And will you do this during inclement weather? You know, if it's like raining outside, do you still haul fill?
No, not typically.
Not typically. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'd
Yes.
just like to get back on the traffic situation.
Yep.
As you know, we're getting into the asphalt season, and that area is heavily used by trucks from Hilka Construction in Dudley, who is hauling material down that road constantly. And also we have the asphalt plant on Old Webster Road that travels that area of Dudley Road, Old Webster Road, and Charlton Street very frequently during the asphalt season. Also, we have to consider that Howard Road is going to be resurfaced, and the asphalt trucks and other construction equipment will also be going to the asphalt plant as well. So there really is a concern about traffic, and if the traffic becomes a situation that cannot be controlled, we may have to have a public safety officer in that area.
That's correct. I agree.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Yes.
sorry.
No.
I'm just thinking that we've brought up a lot of valid questions and things that perhaps we should touch base with the DPW director for. That coupled with the fact that we are in this stay-at-home advisory for the kind of unknown period at the moment, do you think this is something that we should perhaps continue to another meeting so that we can touch base with DPW to try to get some more concrete answers and maybe try to figure out a legitimate, reasonable start date as well?
I personally do. That was what I was leading towards, is that at this point, you know, we have some general concerns. Definitely where, you know, we have a neighbor that's wondering, when does this start? When does this end? We have a time period, 9 to 5, but we don't know if they'll start in May, if they'll start in June. And then, so that's a big factor. And then, yeah, I think the traffic is something we need to think about. Maybe Mr. Conrad, you could find that out. Get an idea of, like, 2 trucks, how long it takes them to get to wherever they're dumping and then coming back. So we could have a better idea of a traffic plan.
Sure.
And
Again,
I would like to say something regarding the safety of pulling in and out of this site. The road by this site is quite flat. And so as you go to pull out, you can see several hundred feet to the right and several hundred feet to the left. So you'll have good sight distance in both directions. There are no hills or curves. So I don't believe you're going to have a problem with people pulling it out of this site, but I don't know if that answers all your questions.
well, if I was to give you a June 1st start date and an end date by August 31st, does that answer those questions?
Yeah,
Restricted to 10 trucks a day?
yeah, that answers that question. We could then, have a time that we start, a time that ends. Then
I
we
mean,
can-
Mr. DeVoli's been out there and looked at the site and gave you his 5 different points.
Yeah. Now, the next factor then would be the traffic, the amount of trucks in a given hour or 2 hours or whatever. And just in regards to your comment, you gotta see the old Webster Road sometime and see the traffic barreling down that road. They don't do 30 miles an hour. So I know it's a flat way where you're talking. I'm very familiar with that area. But I can assure you that a truck coming out of that site is going to have a car up on them so fast, they won't even know it's there. Because in that stretch alone, I'm sure they do close to 50, 60 miles an hour, easy. And I'm probably even underestimating at that. So, the safety is an issue there. It is an issue I think we need to really be concerned with also.
There's gonna be a lot more trucks going there building the subdivision than there is removing the earth.
And that's a concern. Yeah, that's a concern because it's a heavily traveled, like Selectmen said right already, is that it's a heavily traveled area. We have a lot of truck traffic down there. Yeah, it's a concern. And so we probably can't control the truck traffic when you're building, but we can control it with the earth removal. And as much as we can, keep everyone happy and safe, I think that's.
What number of trucks per day would you be happy with?
Mr. Chairman, could I interject on that question?
Yes, you may.
I think that's the point. I think what we have to do is to find out how many, well, we know how much gravel you're going to take out of there. So we're going to have to get somebody, not myself or probably not anyone here, but an engineer would have to identify how much material there is there, what size trucks will be removing material, so that we can determine how long it will take a truck to go out of that area in a given period of time.
Or you can limit the number of trucks per day, Mr. Said.
Yes, we could do that. And then we could set the time frame.
Right. I'm willing to work within whatever makes you happy. I mean, if you want 10 trucks or 2 trucks an hour, whatever.
No, but what I'm saying is we can't set the time frame until we know how much material is going to be removed.
There are 26,000 yards of material.
That you're going to be doing this.
Is going to be
from now until August or June until August enough time to get all that material out of there? I don't know. I can't calculate how much material is there and how many trucks it would take to get it out of there, in what period of time it would take to do that. So maybe an engineer could answer those questions for us, so that we would have a better idea as to the length of time of this project.
John, so they, just throwing it out there, they did mention earlier that I believe they said 600 cubic yard trucks, or they did mention the size of the trucks, and it is per their application 26,000 cubic yards that they need to pull out of there.
Okay, then that would have to be calculated to find out how many trucks are going to be going in what length of time to get it all out.
If I could try to bring this into perspective. So there would be about 900 truckloads coming off of that site, 900.
Okay.
So I can't imagine that they would haul it more than a half hour. If you haul it more than a half hour, it's really not economical. I mean, it's true Conrad has not signed a contract with a particular client, so he does not know where it's going to be delivered. But I from experience, I can tell you no one's going to buy that gravel if they have to haul it more than a half an hour. So it takes 10 minutes to fill a truckload. So if it's an hour's round trip, then they can fill 6 trucks during that hour. So I would think that they'd probably put on 6 trucks, and those trucks would probably make 6 or 7 round trips a day. So 6 trucks times 10 be 42 truckloads a day. Divide that into 900. It's probably close to
20 days.
20 days.
Perfect. That's exactly the information I think we need.
Yep.
So you'd be doing 16 truckloads a day.
No. 6 trucks would make probably 7 round trips a day. So that'd be 42 truckloads a day. So 42 trucks leave the site, and then 42 trucks return to the site. It's really 6 trucks going again and again and again.
Yeah.
So over an 8 hour.
10 minutes. 10 minutes to fill a truck.
Yeah.
So.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, the town manager, I have spoken with Sean Dival, and typically what he has been doing. Typically what he has been doing is providing the board with a memorandum. I have a reverberation here. I apologize. So he typically provides the memorandum, outlines what he feels is necessary within it, wants the board to actually address and have the opportunity for the public to weigh in, and then typically will refine the actual permit requirements and bring it back to the board. So we're not talking about a long period of time in order to be able to do that, but typically it's more than a one-step process. And I understand the business owners are eager to get ready, but I think to the point of Selectman Sad, we do have an engineer on premise. He has given the memorandum initially, but I know that he would like to look at this a little bit further, especially now hearing the concerns of the board, and try to actually include those within a permit. And then perhaps come back in April at a date to be determined by the board to be able to continue the hearing to that point in time and address these concerns, either with an actual written permit constructed around the concerns the board has, and or come in person and address those concerns along with the business owners.
I think that's a great idea, because I really think some of these things need to be spelled out so that, again, the owner is protected, that's doing the work, and the residents are protected also. So I agree. I don't know about the rest of the board, but I'd like to. Can we put this on a couple of weeks? Is that enough time, John? Did you hear me?
Yes. I would say Tuesday, April 28th, around 7:30 would be a fine time. I think we could be able to do that.
Okay.
That gives the DPW director the time, particularly during this pandemic, an opportunity to actually get to crafting the actual permit requirements.
All right. Sounds good. The rest of the board.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman?
Excuse me?
Yeah, hi, Cheryl.
Yep.
I think that's very reasonable. And I'd like to thank Mr. Allen for, he's being very generous in terms of, whatever we want to do, we'll do. But I also want to just say that I do understand his desire to start this development. The market is hot. There aren't a lot of properties in Oxford for sale. And, this is just an opportunity for us to, get it off of as land and as, put it on the tax rolls for us for budget perspective. So I love the idea of the town manager, having Sean draft a memo to us so that we can do an outline of what it is that we want to get done, so that we can be specific on the permit. But I'm with you. I think that's a great idea to just give us 30 days to finalize it and then get it back to us.
All right. Well, then I would entertain a motion that we postpone this hearing till Tuesday, April 28th at 2:30.
I make that motion.
I second that motion.
Any comments? Call for a vote.
Yes.
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 And I'll vote yes. 5 in the affirmative. We will postpone this till the 28th. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your help and consideration, and stay safe.
Thank you. You too. All
Very
right.
well.
Say thank you.
Okay, so I would entertain a motion to exit this public hearing.
I make that motion.
Second that motion.
For a vote.
Yes.
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 And I'll vote yes. So we have closed this public hearing for tonight. We'll resume on April the 28th. Very good. Okay, next item on our agenda is our town manager's report. Town manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first item on the manager's report has to do with approval of the minutes for March 10th, 2020. Everyone was present with the exception of Chairman Lamarche.
Entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
I make that motion.
I second that motion.
Call for a vote.
Yes.
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 And I'll vote yes. 5 in the affirmative. I'll abstain, excuse me. 4 in the affirmative, 1 abstention. They are approved.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda has to do with reaffirming the votes from an emergency meeting that was held on March 16th. Our town council has advised that the board, whenever there's an emergency meeting at their next board that is public and that is not emergency in nature, to actually declare through a vote the items that were considered, discussed, and voted upon. And in that March 16th emergency meeting, the town of Oxford had made a declaration of an emergency, had discussed the open meeting law, and had come up with a vote around the requirements of doing open meeting law, in particular, how we were going to conduct board and committee meetings during the COVID-19 pandemic. And the board also actually entertained and voted on mitigating measures during the COVID-19 pandemic. All the members were present and all votes were unanimous.
Entertain a motion to approve those emergency meeting minutes.
I make that motion.
I second that motion.
Comments? Call for a vote.
Yes.
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 And I'll vote yes. For 5 in the affirmative, we have verified those meeting concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item has to do with the actual COVID pandemic and our Division of Local Services expenditures. Today, actually, the Department of Revenue, along with the Governor's Office, has issued an actual memorandum. If you look in your actual packets, you will see that this is a measure that is allowing communities to do emergency expenditures and/or borrowing during the time period of the declared state of emergency in fighting the COVID-19 pandemic. This has resulted in an emergency spending on public safety, custodial manpower, sanitization protocols, contracted services, Board of Health and public health contracted nursing services in town. It will continue to add expenses to this community. And it's anticipated that we will encounter these kinds of emergency liabilities in excess of appropriation. Remember, our budget was decided last May. We did not have this in mind, and we are getting towards the end of the fiscal year. So this is a way that allows our community to be able to address those kind of expenditures. Now, tonight, our finance director, the town manager, myself, the EMS director, the Board of Health agent, and the police chief are all requesting the board to actually obtain written approval by the Director of Accounts at the Division of Local Services for the payment of such potential incurred emergency liabilities. Our finance director has instructed me to obtain approval from the Board of Selectmen to send a request to the Director of Accounts, that would be Mary Jane Handy at the Department of Revenue, with a spending estimate and a description of such emergency expenditures. Once the Director of Accounts has approved payment authorization, it will allow the town to either make payments from available funds in its own treasury that exists now, and it will deem those expenditures to be legal overdrafts. Now, we're all hoping that MEMA and FEMA will eventually be able to actually help mitigate some of these costs. But we have no idea how long that will take, and we don't want to run the risk of not doing what the Department of Revenue and the Division of Local Services is asking us to do, so that we can manage these kinds of overages and make sure it doesn't hit our free cash and our certification numbers. So even if the town were to have to be put in a position where we considered to have to emergency borrow to cover such expenses because we didn't have them contained in the budget, the Director of Bureau Accounts approval of our request would still be necessary. So this would, again, try to hopefully not to negatively affect the calculation of free cash. And also, I've attached in your packets some of the emergency cost projections. Some of them have to do with the fact that, you know, we had contracted services for our Board of Health agent for only 2 days a week. I can assure you that it is not just him, but our public health nurse, who is actually working round the clock. That will continue to escalate. We had brought on a custodial care position to actually do a lot of the protocol cleaning. You have in your packets a breakdown that we submitted to the Department of Public Health. Now, recently we got a 10,000, I'm going to speak to that in my update, a small amount to try to help cover some of the Board of Health issues, but that will not address some of the other kinds of emergency appropriations in which I've asked both Chief Sad and also Chief McDonald to outline. So this is not to say we're actually going to spend all this money. This is just to actually petition the Department of Revenue in a way that says we could encounter these kinds of emergency expenditures with the plans that we may need to put into place. And it will allow us under the Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 41, and Mass General Law 44, subsection 8, paragraph 9, to be able to do such. So we have about a cost estimate that could even go up into the $370,000 range. And again, this is just petitioning the Department of Revenue to be able to sort of hold these expenses in a special account, and so that it will not negatively affect our normal budgetary process. And I am here to answer any questions related to that. But again, it's a formality. We're trying to take advantage of every opportunity that the governor's office and also the Department of Revenue is just starting to unfold to us. And I know that there'll be many, many requests placed upon the Department of Revenue exactly like this. But we also have cost estimates from Sean Dival that are also included in there, related to potential overtime from reduced manpower and the way that he is actually trying to staff the department as the essential provider and services mandate that has been handed down to us.
All right. Well, I'd entertain a motion for the board to approve writing a letter to the Director of the Accounts of the Department of Revenue.
I make that motion.
I second that motion.
All right. Just to clarify, what we're doing is sending a letter of request to the Director of Accounts at DLS requesting the accounting of emergency expenditures and borrowing which may be related to COVID-19 under Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 41, and Mass General Law, Chapter 44, subsection 8(9), in the amount of $370,429. Any comments? Call for a vote.
Yes.
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 And I'll vote yes. It's 5 in the affirmative. We will send that letter out. Thank you, John.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next item actually has to do with updating the board on the, oh, I got a ladybug on me. That's a good sign, folks. Little ladybug.
Good signs.
So the next item has to do with giving an update to the public and to this board about where we are in terms of addressing the COVID-19 pandemic. And I'm here to continue to give the board information. As you are aware, and most of the public is aware by now, that the town hall was closed officially to the public as in terms of public access on Monday, March 23rd. This was part of all the municipal buildings being closed to public access on that date as well. We have opened up an actual email address for the town of Oxford residents when they have any questions related to the COVID-19 pandemic, and the actual email, which can be found on our website, but I will repeat it here: COVID-19 questions at town.oxford.ma.us. Any question is not too insignificant for us to try to address. So I encourage residents to continue to do that, and we have been responding to them as quickly as possible. Today, we also had sent around an actual interim work schedule as a result of the orders that came down from the governor's office regarding essential services that was dated March 23rd, 2020. And you can see in your packets, I actually put together the actual message that went out to our employees. And if you have any questions about that, you can feel free to speak with me. I can tell you that all of our employees that would require them to continue to be accessible to the public have been able to do that. Katie McKenna, who is working very fervently with our MIS folks, have made sure that people have remote capabilities. Setting up the Zoom is one of those things, and another cost to the town that relates to us being able to conduct our meetings, and as well as staff to be able to do that. So there are a whole number of things that relate to employees working at home with the expectations that their department heads and their managers will continue to monitor and expect productivity. I did send out a code red message on Sunday evening that came out from myself because I wanted to make sure collectively the public had understood a number of measures. I wanted to not sort of filter everybody. If you could see the volume of information that is coming into this town hall, it's just a waterfall. So I'm trying to reduce some of that noise for the public and also for this board. And so in some of the ways, we take what's most essential and what's required at the moment as we triage that information. So residents can right now call our town hall with any questions And they can call the main number 508-987-6030, or they can visit the town website for specific department contact. And our department heads and their administrative assistants are all capable of being able to answer not only people's inquiries, but to address their concerns. As of today, we did have the DPW, and at the DPW and police request that we created no loitering signs in our parking lot. We were having definitely a problem of young people congregating in the parking lots, a number of people in cars, and of course, during this time period where we are asking people not only to social distance themselves, but also to adhere to decreased social density. That is something that hasn't been happening. And so in order for the police to enforce it, they requested this, and our DPW has complied. All our town parks that have an ability to be closed off or are contained by fences, that includes basketball courts, playgrounds, the dog park, all of those have been closed as of Friday and posted to not be allowed for public access. Our police chief, our fire chief, myself, many people in the community had been observing large groups of both young people and regular people congregating in these more enclosed areas, playing contact sports, doing all the things that are a big mistake when you're trying to mitigate the spread of a communicable disease. And for those reasons, those kinds of measures were taken. Even our Oxford Community Center, which had been closed prior to Friday, is now actually doing an awful lot online for their members, including offering free online fitness courses and to help their members through this time period to keep them up to date in their homes to be continuing to exercise. The other good news is that we have been really strongly pushing for our online permitting system. And I just so happen to be doing this even with the Land Management Office for a number of months, but it finally came to fruition and has been rolled out, and it is on our website now. So contractors, building officials, developers can all access this website and pay for their permits online. So that is just such a wonderful thing and to have at this time for our residents and for our business community. The other thing is Verizon has notified the town that they are offering relief to some customers. And if you go on to the Verizon website, you can see that yourself for that. And we will have that posted also on our website. The Oxford Emergency Management Director, Chief McDonald, has already submitted an actual needs assessment that we had to do in very short order to the Department of Public Health. And we expect more mitigation funds to be coming based on the information we had presented. And I do appreciate, I know he's here, and he worked very quickly with our Board of Health agent, chair of the Board of Health, myself, and a number of other people, including Sean Dival and the chief for the police department. Today, there's also been election legislation that we will probably be considering in the not so distant future, depending on how this pandemic unfolds. And this is about temporarily postponing municipal elections. And so we will see where that goes. But for tonight, I just wanted to let you know that is also going to be put forward. The town manager continues to hold weekly meetings with our departmental staff. They're very in-depth meetings, and that's one of the reasons I think we've been able to effectively address a number of what can usually be very difficult kinds of actions to undertake and do it in a coordinated way. So I want to thank all my department heads for really stepping up, because they have done a phenomenal job with every task I've asked them to address, and for every question we have had to answer. And also, I just want to also thank a lot of the local businesses who started to donate personal protective equipment to our first responders. I know Chief McDonald will have an opportunity to speak to that. And I don't know if it would be okay to ask the chief, as our Director of Emergency Services, if you'd like to say anything to add to this particular update that I've given so far. Chief?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Callahan. The manager's been very responsive, and we've been very fortunate. The team has come together in such a great fashion to make sure we are addressing all of the needs with Chief Sad and Tom Purcell. It's working very well. So we've been fortunate that we have a number of contractors that step forward to offer us some protective equipment into the addition of the stock that we have already had. So in talking to my peer group, we're postured a little better than some other communities. Some are going to be struggling a lot more than ours. So I just appreciate all of the support that everybody's given me, from the manager on down to the board members and to the other department heads.
Great.
Thank you, Chief. I also asked the Board of Health Chairwoman, to actually come on the line. I don't know if she's still on the line. If she is, I wanted to offer her the opportunity to speak. I do know that she had the intention of being part of this conversation this evening. However, she does work at UMass Medical and was directed to come up with an entire new curriculum before tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Chairwoman Singer, are you still there? I guess that might not be the case. Anyway, I do want to say that Tom Purcell, as our Board of Health agent, and Kerry Singer as our chairwoman of the Board of Health, have been phenomenal. I also want to give hats off to our public health communicable disease nurse, Cheryl Warinsky. And whenever we've had presumptive cases and/or we're tracking and looking for trends, everyone has been together. Today, Tom Purcell, once again, with the new orders that were issued yesterday, was going to all of those different businesses that we thought we were going to have to address in a special meeting that would have been joined earlier this evening. And those special orders from the executive office have taken care of everything from nail salons, massage parlors, barbershops, any number of things. So I do want to say people have been working very hard. And I think, Kerry, are you there now?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I'll let you speak. Go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, I've been in communication with the town manager frequently, and we've been kind of giving updates on both ends. Tom Purcell has been updating me as well as to what he's been doing since the governor's order did come out for all non-essential businesses to close, which was good for us because we didn't have to take that initiative to close the non-essential businesses. So we let the governor do that on his own, which kind of helped us a little bit. I am still concerned that there still may be groups of people kind of gathering and hanging out. And I think we as town officials really need to be able to monitor that and have some sort of a reporting structure on who we can go to in order to kind of mitigate that. That is a concern that I have now that things are closed. They will get creative and find ways to kind of gather together. So that is something, I think that we kind of need to keep in the back of our minds as well.
Thank you, Kerry. I haven't had an opportunity to speak with you yet today after having been on a conference call with the Lieutenant Governor and 257 other town managers and administrators. That question about how we enforce these orders was reiterated by the Department of Public Health in terms of the way that it would be enforced, because there are enforcement penalties. Of course, we would not be taking that direct approach other than to bring to the residents and or people who may not be residents who are congregating or violating the social distancing or social density, or actually even continuing to work against the statute and orders that have been put into place. They said today that those kinds of orders would be actually enforced by both Board of Health and Police Department. And if you look in your packets, I have also supplied you with information that Chief Sad has put together that has come directly from his actual Police Chiefs Association, and it actually talks specifically about the type of actions and the way that they can support municipalities to uphold the orders that have been promulgated on March 23rd. Okay, I don't have anything further to say about that, but while we have Kerry and Laurent McDonald still on, or Chief McDonald, I didn't know, Mr. Chairman, if you wanted to provide the board with any opportunity to ask any questions.
Sure would. Board members have any questions, comments to either individual? Well, I do. It was going to be part of my selectmen's request is that I wanted to thank both of you, since you're here, can hear me, for your diligent work. Yeah, I just can't even imagine what the three of you have been going through all of this, and just your hard work, I think is paying off. If we can just get the residents of the town all to take it seriously. There are some I know that aren't, but I cannot thank you personally as a resident or as a board member for your commitment, for what you've done. And I personally just thank all of you. So that's something I want to say.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, go ahead, John.
Thank you.
I do want to point out, even in today's actual conference call, there were questions about how will inspectional services at the local level actually be addressed. And the state at that time didn't have an answer. And I know what we've done at the local level to allow our building inspectional services, and we talked about that at the last meeting. And I think I've already shared that with a number of other municipalities, and they've been very thankful for the ideas that we had actually come up with to continue to protect our building inspector, our electrical inspector, and our plumbing inspector, but still be able, through an affidavit and pictures and video, be able to confirm and still continue to grant permits without risking the health of our employees. So those kinds of things are very innovative, and it comes from creative thinking and the hard work that people are doing here. So thank you. Thank you guys for chiming in here. The next item on my actual report has to do with the naming of an acting superintendent. As you know, recently we were informed that there was an acting superintendent, Dr. Sue Henriken, but the school committee has forwarded to your board and to my office that Dr. Christine Nash has been named the acting superintendent for Oxford Public Schools effective March 16th, 2020, replacing Dr. Sue Henriken. And I want to thank Sue for her commitment to our schools, during that period of time. And I want to say she's been really very phenomenal in working as we were dealing with the beginning phases of the COVID-19 pandemic crisis. So I just wanted the board to know that you have been informed of this. The next item has to do with a resignation from Anthony Troiano. Mr. Troiano recently resigned from his position on the bandstand committee. Obviously, we want to thank Mr. Troiano for his service and for all the years he's tried to coordinate concerts on the Common and keep the bandstand together. We really thank him and tip our hat to him. The final item I'm bringing to the board's attention, because I've been asked to do that by both our conservation agent as well as Mr. Art Furl, one of our residents. Mr. Art Furl has been to my office in the Conservation Commission, and he sent forward a proposal with some signatures regarding a warrant article that he would like to have the actual town entertain for the elimination of the use of gasoline and diesel powered boats on both Robinson Pond and Carbuncle Pond. Mr. Furl would like this to be considered at a future town meeting. I had suggested to him that May town meeting is typically, before even the pandemic, is typically held for items that really relate to our budget. And I'd like to continue to maintain the fall as a time period where we look at language in specific types of warrant articles that may not be budgetarily focused. At this point in time, he would love if I were able to suggest to the board that we could publicly affirm that we would be open to taking up this issue, hopefully sometime after the COVID-19 pandemic, potentially at the fall town meeting. But it's not that we would want to dismiss it out of hand, because he has a right to actually put forward a warrant article. But I think if the board is open to considering it at a later time period where it might be more appropriate and we can give it the due attention that it deserves, I think it would go a long way for the amount of work he has done on this issue, and give him some confidence that we would return to this issue at a later date.
Sounds good to me. I'm for it. Anyone else against that? Visiting that in the future?
Fine with me. Do you need a motion?
I think it would be nice that you don't have to say that you would accept the warrant article, but that you have the intention of being able to entertain it as a potential warrant article in the future.
Okay. So I'll entertain a motion to say just that we'll visit this in the near future. After
I'll make that.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, comments? Call for a vote.
Yes.
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 And I'll vote yes. 5 in affirmative, we'd be glad to do that. Great.
Thank you. And that would conclude the manager's report.
All right, thank you, Jen. Selectmen's requests. Selectman LeBlanc.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Glad to see everyone safe and healthy. And I just want to echo the chair's kind words in regards to all of the work that's being done by juggling the COVID pandemic and certainly trying to keep business moving in a forward fashion, certainly while dealing with this, elephant, so to speak. So I just wanted to say thank you to Board of Health, thank you to Jen, thank you to the Board of Health Chair. And if you should need anything, I'm safely ensconced in my home working. So, and I hope everyone stays healthy.
Great. Thank you. Selectman Troiano.
I just wanted to say thank you to all of our first responders and our healthcare workers who are continuously going to work every day despite the pandemic that's going on. And I really just want to urge residents to please stay home. Only go out for your essential things. This is serious. And although, yes, many of us could probably contract it and be fine, it's the people that you can pass it to that you don't even realize that you're passing it to that might not be fine. So we really need to, as a community, band together to try to beat this and really work together to stay home to protect each other. And thank you to the town manager and all of our departments who are working diligently to keep the town safe and clean. And to the board members, I wish you well. It's been an interesting meeting tonight, but it seemed to have worked well. That's all.
Great, thank you. Selectman Daniels.
Same thing, just echoing, thank you for everybody who's working round the clock, long days, long nights, to keep everybody up to date, keep everybody healthy and the information chain flowing, especially to the first responders. I know there was a group of Oxford firefighters that were out all night out in Northbridge helping another community out with one of their issues. And then one thing that I want to bring to light that was in our mail packet, we had discussed enforcing the social distancing and the importance of staying home. Well, you guys were talking, I looked it up, and that mailing that went out to the police chief, Department of Public Health is authorized a warning for a first offense of people that aren't following the guidelines of staying home, social distancing, not going out, upwards of $300 to $500 fines from going on past that for people who aren't abiding by that. So it's important that we follow the guidelines and just limit our exposures and like Selectman Troiano said, may not be us that get sick, but it's the people that we pass them along to. So with that, thank you to everybody for all your hard work.
Thank you. Selectman Sad.
Yes, I guess I'd echo the comments of my colleagues regarding thanking all those who have stepped up and done an outstanding job so far. It includes obviously the town manager who's taken the lead on this, and our department heads who have been working very, very closely together. To be honest with you, I never thought I'd be doing one of these meetings. I'm not a techie at all. I panic when I get in front of a computer, but with the help of staff, I was able to do it, and I appreciate their help. I'd also like to say that this is a time where it's really a change in our lifestyles, and you can get bored very easily. I mean, there's only 2 people in my house, and it's boring. You can only talk so much, you can only do so much, say so much. I really feel bad for the people, the young couples who have children that are not in school, and they have to keep these children occupied. God bless them. And, I hope that this ends sooner than later, because it's become a burden on everyone. And it's, from what I understand, it's only the beginning of the long haul. And if that's the case, I wish you all to be safe. And it appears as though people are doing the right thing, at least most of the people. And the other thing I think we have to be aware of is, if you're on Facebook or you're listening to podcasts or whatever, there's a lot of misinformation out there. So, give yourself a break and stay away from these things, and not be hooked all day long. I know I talked to one individual that said they were tired of watching CNN, MSNBC, Fox, and it's constantly all day long. You have to take a break from that. And you have to find different things to do to keep yourself occupied. And it's difficult to do. And I hope and pray that we all come out of this very safely. And with that, that's all I have. I just want to congratulate everyone who's done a good job so far. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, John. Yeah, so of course, I'm in total agreement. And town manager, I hope you will pass it on to Tony and Tom and Sean and their crews and everything, how appreciative the board really is. It's, a lot of us have said for years that we're very fortunate in town. We've got some great people working here. And I think this is a primary example of that, great people have come up and really helped this town at this point to stay as safe as possible. And we're all very blessed in that manner. One thing I would like to just mention is Anthony Troiano, he did resign. I'd like to send him a letter from the board, just thanking him. He has done an awful lot for this town in so many ways. So I personally think it would be a great thing to just send him a letter on behalf of the board, if everybody's in agreement with that. Yes, no?
Yes.
Okay, I'm getting shakes ahead. Great. So Jen, if we could do that, I'd appreciate that.
That would be no problem at all.
Great, thank you. So that's all I have. So with that, please stay safe. If the weather gets nice like it was today, go out for a walk. That's what my wife can do. So with that, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make that motion.
Second that motion.
Yes.
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 You know, vote yes. Affirmative, we are adjourned. Thank you all. Stay safe.